Welcome back to OpenLine. We are here with elder law attorney Tim Takacs, and we've had several calls already, which I appreciate. People calling in, talking about either caring for someone who is aging, or perhaps they themselves are aging. They have some questions about how an attorney could help. So let's go to the phones here. Let's go to Anna. Hello, Anna. Is that you, Anna? Is that you, Anna? Is that you, Anna? Is that you, Anna? All right. I don't think that's it. All right. All right. Well, then, let's not go to the phones.
Yes. Maybe Anna will call back.
Maybe Anna will call back.
Yes.
As far as
we
nursing home care,
we want Anna to call back.
We
That's
do.
true.
We want Anna to call back. Please feel free to call back. I appreciated the last call that we heard bits of twice.
Yes.
Someone caring for an 87-year-old person with Alzheimer's.
Right.
And it was a neighbor.
Yes.
How often are you seeing, how often are you seeing scenarios where somebody's caring for somebody, they're just at wit's end, they don't know what else to do, and how can you help someone like that? What can be done for somebody like that?
Yeah, and I think about, part of it is and we were having this conversation during the break about, about what Sandra's situation is, taking care of this 80-some-year-old neighbor. And the first thing is that, well, how did that happen? How did she get into that posture where she finds herself? Is she going over there every day? Is she going over there a couple times a week? Is she literally almost like living there, or vice versa? Are there family members? Where are they? Are they non-involved, or maybe there are none? We have a term for it here, which in our office, that we call them unsupported elders. I know one of the terms that I've heard used, which we don't care for, is an orphan elder.
Okay.
Now, I don't like that term because orphans, to me, in some ways, it's sort of like derogatory, and like, okay, you're an orphan, so there's like something wrong, or you're being not supported. Because the problem with the elder is they may not be orphans. Maybe there are, in the sense of maybe there are family members. Maybe the family members are a long way away. Maybe they're non-involved,
right?
Or for whatever reason. Maybe they have friends. It's not like they don't have anybody that cares about them, but they don't have somebody that will look, will check on them, and will be there for them if they need help. And so we call those unsupported elders, because when they need support, they're not sure whether they're going to get it. And I wonder if that's what Sandra's, if the neighbor is an unsupported elder. And why is there a need for conservatorship? Who is she going to be conservator? Meaning Sandra. Is she asking for a public guardian to be appointed? Is she asking for maybe a distant family? All sorts of questions that come up that, certainly we can't spend all this time talking to Sandra about that, because hopefully she had those conversations with a lawyer, that she'd hired about, okay, why do you need a conservatorship? Is there family members? Can she sign a durable power of attorney, which maybe obviate the need for a conservatorship? What's the purpose for that? All those sorts of things which good lawyers are going to be asking questions about, and the presumption, or at least in our office, since, we don't do conservatorships, we will refer those cases out to other lawyers. Our view on that is conservatorship is a last resort. It's when the elder can't make decisions for himself or herself, lacks capacity to sign a document or other decision-making document, and needs the protection, supervision, or the assistance of the court. That's what a conservatorship is. So
let's try Anna again on line 5. Hello, Anna.
Yes.
Go right ahead, Anna.
Okay.
Thank you.
What's on your mind, Anna? Go right ahead.
Yes. Yes.
Keep talking.
My question is, all right, my question is about real estate.
All right.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
We can hear you.
Yeah, don't listen to the TV, because it's, just listen to us.
Oh, okay. I have a 90-year-old mother who passed away, and there are 7 heirs to this property that she has left.
Okay.
All right, she is, all right, turn down your television, but I think I get the question.
Yes.
I already get the question.
Okay.
Let me see. So there's 7 heirs to this property.
Yes.
What happens? How is this property divided? What if one person wants to sell and the others don't? I mean, how do we deal with that kind of a situation?
Okay, so we have 7 heirs, mom dies, and there's no will, say. Okay, first of all is real estate passes, title to real estate passes immediately at death. Okay, so Anna's mother dies and she has 7 children, you know, and they're all entitled to receive 1/7 of the real estate. Okay, so now if one of them is living in the house, one of the rights that a person has who is like owner of that real estate, I could say there's 7 heirs, any one of them has a right to live there.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say brother is living in the house, you know, and he goes, well, you can't take my house, and it's like not only can I take 1/7 of the house, I can move in.
Okay.
Yes, because he, you know, that other, you know, each of those 7 heirs has an absolute, you know, has a right to use and occupancy of that real estate.
So I get, okay, maybe they could move in, but let's say one wants to sell it,
yes,
and the other 6 don't want to. You can't sell 1/7 of a house.
That's true.
So what happens?
What happens is that no one can, you know, the law does not force somebody to own something like that they don't want to own. So you got, you know, you have 6 want to keep the property because it's mama, you know, it's the family house and blah blah blah, and the other 7, you know, the other child lives in California or Colorado or someplace and wants their money. Okay, that child has a right to have his or her share. You know, and that child can go to court if necessary and force a sale. You know, if the other 6 want to keep the property, they're going to have to buy the other one out.
Wow. Okay. So they can keep the property, but they may have to buy the one out.
Right.
Who wants to sell.
And the one that has, okay, the one that lives in Colorado that says, look, I want my money. You know, and the other 6 go to her and say, well, here's $100,000, and that's more than this property. You know, that's more than we think that a 7th is worth. She can say, nope, I don't want it. I want it sold, because I don't know whether $100,000 is fair or not.
So that's a real problem.
It can be. Yeah.
That's when
because
families fight. And it's rough.
You know how we can tell how much real estate is worth?
To sell it.
Absolutely. You know, and you can't force somebody to say, well, here's $100,000. The judge is not going to put a value on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the judge isn't going to say, well, I think $100,000 is fair. The judge is going to say, I don't have authority to set terms for you. Now, what I do have authority to do, the judge is going to say, is I have authority to order a sale. You know, and I will order a sale, you know, and we're going to have it on the courthouse steps.
So that is brutal if, again, there are a lot of people that want to keep the house.
That's right.
Keep mama's house.
Yes.
They don't want to sell.
That's true.
And then a judge says, nope, you have to sell because Johnny
one person over here says, I want my money.
Well,
now,
that's rough.
Nothing prohibits, you know, those 6 children that wants that property is to bid on it. They show up at the courthouse steps and say, well, no one else is here bidding, so we'll bid in $100,000. So you know, they bid in $100,000, and instead of their sibling getting $100,000, she's going to get what, 1/7 of $100,000?
Right.
You know, she's going to get, you know, 15,000 or 20, you know, or 10,000 or 12,000 or whatever 1/7 is of 100,000.
Is there any way?
That's the way it works.
Okay, I'm fascinated about it. Is there any way to avoid that kind of disastrous situation? Let's say on the front end.
Yeah.
So you have a mother. She has 7 children. Is there anything she can do if she to placate everyone, to make everyone happy? She loves them all equally, but she doesn't want this kind of fight to happen. What can be done?
Well, she can do an estate plan. So mom says, all right, before I die, I want to make sure we keep the house in the family, and she can set up an estate plan so that that can happen.
And then the one living out in Colorado can't say, okay, I demand that you sell it.
That's right, because she's bound by mom's wishes. She could, let's say, I'm going to transfer this to a trust. you know, I'm going to leave it under the, I'm going to, you know, require the trustee, who may be one of the other siblings, you know, that sibling can set the terms and conditions in accordance with the trust. It can set out the trust can set out a mechanism for valuing the property, you know, so that if there's a disagreement as to the value of it and how much each share is worth, you know, then it can be, you know, they can hire an appraiser or something, and it could all be set out that way.
And that's why the greatest gift you can give your children is a plan.
Is a plan.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It'll prevent all kinds of disastrous squabbling.
Right.
That arises often.
Exactly. You know, and they can all blame mom. I mean, sometimes I will tell my clients, I will say, okay, here's what we think you ought to do. And they'll say, well, I mean, we typically see this on things like, well, I've got 3 children. I want to make them all my power of attorney. You know, and we'll say, that's probably not a good idea, because this isn't a committee thing. You know, it's not about respecting. You know, name the person that would be best at the job, and if that's the middle or the youngest child, so be it.
Right.
You know, but don't do this by committee. You know, there are a lot of mistakes that people make, and one of them is like that's part of taking charge of your estate plan. You know, recognizing that, you know, the children want a plan, hopefully. You know, they don't want conflict at the end.
And the parents don't want conflict.
They don't want conflict.
They don't want their offspring to be fighting.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want that.
Right. You know, and you know, and we just say to our clients, is don't do stupid stuff. You know your children, you know what you're going to get most likely. You know, and you know, unless you're just being perverse about it, you know, let's do it the right way. You know, so that they get the maximum value out of your estate.
So Anna, I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, hold on the line and we'll come back to you and turn down the TV. But I hope I was able to take from the few sentences you had where you were going with that call. Let's try Sherry now, and we'll come back to you if that wasn't right. But let's try Sherry.
Yes.
Hello, Sherry.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Okay, I more or less have the same problem. My husband has not seen his children, his 3 children, in 60 years.
60?
They do not come, 60 years.
60.
They do not come around or any, right.
Yeah.
So they do not come around or anything. Okay, he's got Alzheimer's. He probably wouldn't even know him if he saw him, you know. But I need to get a will, and we have a daughter. But, I mean, how do I go about... I mean,
So, Sherry, is this a subsequent marriage for you and your husband?
Right.
Okay, so these are his children, not your children, right?
No, he and I have a child together.
I know, but the other children that he hasn't seen for 60 years, those aren't your children, right?
No, they are not my children.
Okay, so a lot of it then depends upon, you know, basically what his estate plan is. See, now think about this. All right, now let's think through this. Let's assume that, okay, Sherry and her husband, you know, and he's got Alzheimer's disease, and sounds like she's the one that's probably the caregiver, you know, and whether she's younger or older than he is, it doesn't really matter. But the first thing, one of the things that I think of is this. One is that Sherry's going, well, what do I do about his children? And it's like, well, no, the most important thing that you need to think about is that what if you died first? Right?
Okay.
You know, it's like, okay, Sherry, did you think about that? You know, what if she dies first? Okay, where does her money and property go? Does it go to her husband? Do they own a house together? Or, you know, because they were obviously, this was a subsequent marriage for both of them. Is the way they're holding their property, is she certain that it's going to go, what she wants to go to her children are going to go to her children or her daughter? Is who's going to take care of her husband if she dies first? Does she? I assume she wants him to be taken care of. You know, but those are the sorts of things that I think about. Okay, if he dies first, which maybe is more likely, but you know, you don't know, does he have an estate plan? In other words, does he have a will? Does he have, I mean, what the documents does he have?
If she dies first,
yes,
does the money go to her husband?
Well, some of it does, unless they have a prenuptial agreement.
Let's say there's no prenup.
Okay.
Some of it goes to her husband and some goes to her child.
That's right.
They don't go to his children.
They don't go to his children.
But they would go
but
to
they could, because she dies. Some percentage of the estate goes to her husband. And then he dies, and where does that go? To his children.
Right. Then it goes to his children.
Right. So then whatever it is that she wanted maybe for her to go to her daughter winds up going to her husband's children, whom he hasn't seen in 60 years. And he dies, and somebody's going to find them.
Right. Right.
I mean, anymore, in this country, it's hard to, it's hard for people to get lost like that. Even though they haven't seen him for 60 years, probably if they went looking for him, they could find him on the internet in 5 minutes. Or at least enough clues to find, and certainly if you hired somebody that was good at that, they would find him. So
that's a pretty compelling fact. I mean, you asked that more than once, because I was with you. I was like, 60 years. They haven't seen their father in 60 years. So let's say, let's say he dies. Let's say he had Alzheimer's, and let's say then the money is divided to the kids. They didn't do anything.
Right.
The kids say, "Yay! That's the way it should be."
Right.
The wife fights it.
Yes.
How difficult is that fight, and how likely is it to succeed?
Right. Well, for one is that it doesn't matter where they haven't seen their father for 60 years. For one, that's not applicable.
Okay.
That means nothing.
Okay.
I mean, the only way it could is assuming that. I mean, I'm going to assume that they are still his children. In other words, somebody else has not adopted them. Okay. That's why I would think 60 years. But let's assume that that's still in play. So they're entitled to inherit. So he dies first, and then it's like, okay, now they don't have a prenuptial agreement. Now she's entitled to something. Now, if everything is owned by them jointly as husband and wife, then he dies first, everything goes to her. Maybe he has an estate plan where he does leave everything. Maybe he's gone to get, maybe 2 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago, he did a will. And it sounds like they've been married for a while because they have a daughter together, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Is it maybe he has a will which he says, okay, if I die first, everything to my wife. If she dies first, everything to him. So if he dies first, everything's going to be hers. I mean, maybe that's probably most likely if there's any estate plan at all.
It would go to her.
It would go to, because that's what spouses tend to do, particularly if they've been married for as long as apparently they have.
Right.
He's probably left everything to her, and she's maybe left everything to him. Mm-hmm. And that's the real problem is that the way I put it is estate planning changes when one spouse becomes disabled.
Yeah.
And that's the posture that she's in.
That's fascinating. All right, it's a fascinating topic. All right, we're going to take a break. If you're on the line, hold on. I see other people, Bill and Wayne and Terry. Hold on, and we'll get to your call. Take a break. Be back right after this.